Hey everyone, just taking a quick 15 seconds to let you know that my new book, The Fitness Mindset, Eat for Energy, Train for Attention, Manage Your Mindset, Reap the Results, which hit the bestseller list within 24 hours of its release, is now available to buy on Amazon. So if you're looking for everything you need to get into incredible shape and the mindset to keep it forever, be sure to check it out. Thanks for listening, and I hope you enjoyed this week's episode.
Welcome to Brian Keane Fitness Podcast, where we talk everything fitness, nutrition and mindset with your host Brian Keane.
Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of the Brandon Mull Fitness Podcast. We talk everything fitness, nutrition and mindset to help you with your goals. Today's episode, I'm going to talk about the top 5 fitness mistakes that I see or that I've made. The truth is I could have flipped that because the ones that I see and the mistakes that I see are all ones that I've made myself largely in some degree. Anyone that's been training, I'm nearly 17 years training now, 18 years come December, and I have probably made every single mistake you can think of in the whole training section of my book, the nutrition section of my book, The Fitness Mindset. I talked about some of the mistakes that I made and how basically hoping the book would cut the learning curve for people. So hopefully this episode will do something very, very similar. So if you've made these mistakes, you'll be able to resonate with them. If you're somebody that's making them right now, hopefully they'll be able to send your training, your nutrition, or your supplements, or your physique full stop to the next level. So hopefully you guys will get loads of value from this. So the first mistake that I see, and I've been a victim of this in the past, just in a different way, is thinking that there's only one way to eat, or one nutritional plan, or one nutritional strategy that you need to follow. The truth is most people will subscribe to some form of eating, either paleo, keto, clean eating, intermittent fasting, whatever systems there are, flexible dieting, and people will hammer their flag to a post. And I've been a victim of this in the past. If you've been following me long enough, you know that I'm a big fan of clean eating, spacing meals, so you keep your blood sugar level stable. But there was a time when I thought that that was the only way you get in shape. And I have been demonized things like adding in cereals and Cocoa Pops and these things post-workout, when the truth is for some people they work tremendously well. And it's just going to be a case of finding what nutritional strategy works best for you. Is it optimal to have cereals and simple sugars and Pop-Tarts and things like that post-workout and fit them into your macros? Probably not optimal for body composition, but will it work? Definitely if you've designed your entire nutritional plan around fitting that food in, you have a training program that's in alignment with your goals, and you have all of these things geared towards changing your body composition. So the truth is, there is no one nutritional plan that works for everybody. If there was, everybody would follow that plan and everyone would have great energy levels and everyone would be in the shape they want to be in. The truth is you've got to have a little bit of a play around to see what works for you. The keto diet works incredibly well for endurance athletes and people that don't mind making the sacrifices to stay in full ketosis. For example, the keto, basically if you're in a keto diet, it means your body's in a state of ketosis. You only have to break that down further. You have two main energy sources. Your body has glucose, which is carbohydrates that you eat, and then you've got ketones, which is when your body's in ketosis. It's like petrol or diesel for a car. So people that go into full ketosis by dropping their carbohydrates very low and dropping their protein very low, because if your protein's too high, you can't go full ketosis because your body can convert protein to glucose. It's a form called glucogenesis, and you'll use that glucose to knock you out of ketosis. So it means your fat has to be very, very high. There's loads of benefits to this. It's an unlimited energy source. It's why a lot of marathon runners and endurance athletes try and get themselves into ketosis, because you can burn through it and it's nearly like an unlimited energy source. You also feel really, really clear. Your brain fog is gone and your body and energy levels are at their all-time high. On the flip side of it, it doesn't really lend itself to somebody that wants to live a normal lifestyle. So if you go too high on your protein, you'll knock yourself out of ketosis. If you go for a cheat meal, you'll knock yourself out of ketosis. You go for a few drinks with your friends, you'll probably knock yourself out of ketosis. And it's a nightmare to get into it. Like, I've done the keto diet for a while, and those 3, 4, 5 days before you go ketosis, you're walking around like a zombie. So, and then it takes, one meal to knock you back out of it. And you can feel very, very horrible dropping in and out of ketosis. So for some people, that will work tremendously well, that have the discipline and have the sacrifice and don't mind not eating too much protein, that don't mind not having any cheat meals or never want any drinks with their mates when they're out, then it may work tremendously well for them. However, somebody that wants to balance it may not work. There's other people that will do flexible dieting, which means that you'll fit in your Cocoa Pops or your Frosties or your cereal after you train, and then you'll time your other macros around it, and you'll have a flexible diet where you have a chocolate bar every night, or you'll have that bowl of cereal every night, and that can work amazingly well. I've had people come through my BKF online program. Some people have came through and they've literally had a small bit of chocolate every single night because that's what kept them on track. I talked in other episodes about habits and how some people are better with cold turkey and some people are going to be better with moderation. For example, I'm a cold turkey person. I have to give it up completely. I can't do moderation when I'm trying to give something up. However, there's other people who are like, I can't go cold turkey. I need to have a small bit of chocolate or a small bit of wine or a small bit of whatever it is every night, and that keeps me on track with my body composition goals. So it's going to be finding what works best for you, what nutritional strategy works best. The only thing that's going to support everybody, and I spoke about this in my book, is using real foods. Like, it doesn't really matter what your goal is in composition, whether it's improve sporting performance, build muscle, lose body fat. The one thing that will hold true, whether you're doing keto, paleo, IFYM, flexible dieting, is basing the majority of your nutrition around real foods that your body understands and knows. Like, there's a big difference between microwavable rice that you put into the microwave and turn on for a minute and real boiled rice that you have to take 10 minutes to cook. The way that's absorbed because of the lack of the amount of processed ingredients to give it a longer shelf life and make it cook quicker in a microwave, that's going into your body. So on top of you not getting the same satiation because of the fiber being removed, and the fiber is what normally gives you the fullness in a lot of foods, that's been removed in the microwavable packet, so you need to eat more to feel full, but you're also consuming those preservatives and additives. And for anyone that has things like IBS, leaky gut, fibromyalgia, to a degree that's down to dopamine receptors as well, the PCOS, a lot of these things can be massively minimized by fixing your gut health and using real foods in your nutritional plan. So one of the things that I've came around in the last few years, and I see people making the mistake saying, this is the only way to eat. This is the best nutrition strategy you can do. Keto is the only way to live. Flexible dieting is the only way to work. And the truth is, they all work. It's a case of finding what works best for you. I love the quote from Charlie Munger, to the man with a hammer, the whole world looks like a nail. So if all you have is a hammer, everything looks like a fucking nail. Some things need screws. Some things need to be bolted. It depends. So find what works best for you and then build your nutritional strategy around it. The one thing that will work for everybody is try to primarily use real foods that are not processed versions of the original form or Pop-Tarts into your entire nutritional plan just because it's fitting into your macros. IFYM, and if it fits your macros, is a great system if you're using the majority of real foods. And most people that get into great shape using that system are using 80% great food, and then they're using the other 20% to have their Pop-Tarts or to have their cereal or to have their chocolate or to have their slushies or whatever it is that they're using that seems to do the circulation on Instagram. It doesn't matter, but the majority of their food is off real food. That's why their composition is changing. They're not just fitting their macros in with eating 12 Pop-Tarts every day. So that's very important to understand, and it's something that caught me because you don't see everything. You don't see the full training program of some people following these diets. You don't see how hard they're working in the gym. You don't see what they're doing the rest of the day. All you see is their shot of Reese's Pieces ice cream on their Instagram, and you think, oh, well, they do it, so I'm going to do it. When the truth is they're working hard behind the scenes. They're eating right 80% of the time, and then they're factoring in these things. So the truth is there is no one diet that works for everybody. There is no one nutritional strategy that works for everybody. It's going to be finding what works for you and then building it into your lifestyle. Okay, the mistake number 2 that I see, and this is something that I've definitely fallen victim of, even though it's a little bit untraditional, is not lifting heavy enough. So one of the things when I started training first was because I used to get such a muscle burn when I was 16, 17, 18. I used to get such a muscle burn from working for higher volume, working in 20 reps, 25 reps. And I would work with a lighter weight for tension, and I did get some change in body composition, but I didn't understand parameters or rep ranges and failing at the given rep range, even though I could use that tension style training. And that's something that evolved over 10, 12, 15 years, that tension style training that I talk about, where you're loading the muscle and building the mind muscle connection, so that you're loading the muscle you're trying to work to optimize its composition so it looks its absolute best. For example, if you're using a bicep curl, that you're using biceps to move the weight as opposed to your hips or your forearms or your shoulders by swinging the weight, you're going to get better growth on your biceps, just for example. However, when I started training first, I used to go lighter because I liked the way the burn felt, which meant that I was failing at 20, 25 reps. That's not the optimal range to work within in order to build muscle. It's going to be that 8 to 10, maybe even 12 rep range where you're going and using that tension style training, using that parameters so that you're working the muscle you're trying to work, but you're still failing at that rep range. Anyone that follows my Snapchat from the podcast, Brian K019, or even my Instagram stories, my workouts are on both. A lot of people will message and go, are they the real weights you're using? Why are you lifting so light? And the truth is, I'm not lifting light. I'm lifting as heavy as I possibly can for the given rep range I'm trying to work in. So I'm working the muscle that I'm trying to work for optimal tension. So I'm using 20 kilos or 25 kilos on a barbell pure. That's all the weight. So just the bar or maybe 5 kilos each side, because that's all I can do to fail at 8 to 10 reps on a bicep barbell curl. But I'm not swinging the weight. I'm not letting it drop all the way down. I'm not coming up all the way. I'm keeping constant tension on my bicep so that I can change the composition in that muscle. When I started training first, I made the mistake of using those, but not working in the right parameters. But I find what I see with a lot of people, and that can be a mistake, and you may be in this bracket and it may be worth catching it and trialing the other side and seeing how it works for you, is going way too heavy for your 8 to 10 rep range, where you're swinging the weight and you're not changing the composition of the muscle, and you also massively increase your risk of injury. Like, you want to go as heavy as possible within your parameters. So if muscle hypertrophy, you're trying to build lean muscle, or you're trying to tear more fibers so you can elevate your metabolism so you can burn more body fat, you still want to be working within that 8 to 10 rep range, but you're going as heavy as you can with perfect form on that weight. I talk about more of this in the form section, in the time and retention section, in the training section of my book, because it's something that is the biggest mistake that I made. And I see people on the other side lifting too heavy, where they're using all of their body to move a barbell curl, for example, and they wonder why their arms aren't growing. That's largely why. You do have people that are genetically gifted and can do any sort of weight in any rep range and they'll grow, but they're the genetic few. I don't put myself into that bracket. I think I've got decent genetics and they're on the better side of good, but they're not great. There are people with great genetics that can do any training system and can eat majority any food, and their composition will change. They will get bigger, they'll put on more muscle. If they're girls, their waist will stay small, but their shoulders will get bigger and their ass will get bigger. They have those genetics. So it's a case that make sure that you're lifting the right weight, working the muscle you're trying to work with the right parameters, not going too light or too heavy. You know, light and heavy is subjective. 20 kilos on a press is heavy for one person and light for another person. So it's subjective. Find what works for you in your given rep range. One of the things that I talk about people that come through my BKF online program is find the weight that you're failing at 10 reps with perfect form. So if you're doing a glute hip thrust in the female version of the program, you want to be doing a weight that you get to 10 reps and you can't do 11. If you're failing at 6 or 7, the weight's too heavy. If you're able to do 11, 12, 13, 14 reps, the weight's too light and you need to adjust it. So that's how you pick it, and you work within the parameters that are in alignment with your specific goal. Okay, and that ties me perfectly into number 3, which is not using the right training system for your specific goal. This was literally the reason I created my GA Lean Body program, was because I was that guy who was playing high level sport, playing GA. I lived and breathed football when I was 17, 18, 19, 20, but I was going to the gym doing bodybuilding movements to try and change the way I looked. And I also didn't realize that it was going to have a detrimental effect on my actual performance, because I was doing one plane of motion. I was working in parameters that were mainly tearing fibers down in that single plane of motion, which meant when I tried to twist and turn on the pitch, I actually wasn't as quick, I wasn't as nippy, and I wasn't able to perform at my optimal level. So what I see with a lot of people, and I made this mistake, it's why it's so easy for me to spot in people, is going into the gym and doing programs that aren't in alignment with your specific goal. If you're a female and you're trying to prioritize fat loss, going in and doing 3 or 5 reps on a deadlift with a 3-minute rest in between is not going to be the optimal way to train to lose body fat. That's going to build your strength, and if that's your primary goal, then brilliant, but it's not optimal for fat loss. If you're trying to reduce your body fat, you want to work for hypertrophy or tension style parameters where you're tearing more fibers so you can elevate your metabolism, so while you're sitting at home resting or chilling out with your friends or your family or your partner, you're still burning calories. You also want to be getting your heart rate elevated at, they say 70% or above of your max heart rate is a scientific study for your fat loss zone. That's 220 minus your age to calculate your maximum heart rate. You want to be elevating your heart rate in training because that means you're going to burn more calories and you're going to help yourself reduce the level of body fat that's on your body, and you'll change your composition as a result. So going in and doing 3 reps on a deadlift and then waiting 10 minutes and doing 5 reps on a squat isn't the optimal way to train, but I do see a lot of girls making that mistake. The same way as I did it with GEA. I was going in doing bodybuilding movements, doing bicep curls, doing chest press, all one plane of motion. Now those movements are fine as long as they're built within a program that has hypertrophy, some strength and conditioning aspects, so you're getting glutes to fire so your speed's not affected, and some multi-dimensional movements and metabolic conditioning so that you're able to get your heart rate elevated, you're able to build your muscular endurance, and you're not just working in one plane of motion so that when you go out on the pitch and try and twist and turn, you end up slowing down. You can do the hypertrophy. My GEA lean body program is built around hypertrophy in the beginning and metabolic conditioning and strength and conditioning, depending on the variation of the version of the program or the sport you play, so that you're able to build your body composition. You're able to build muscle or lose body fat, but you're also able to improve your performance by getting your muscular endurance up, by getting your glutes to fire so you're going to be faster, and then you have everything in alignment with your specific goals. So what I would advise anybody do, and again, this is the advice if I could go back to my 16 or 17-year-old self, I would say make sure your training program and your nutritional plan, but specifically your training program, is in alignment with your specific goals. If you were trying to lose body fat primarily, then make sure that that's the program you're following. If you're a male that's trying to improve your sporting performance and building muscle, make sure your training program is built around that. If you're overweight and obese and you just want to drop some weight on a scale so that you feel better and can get into slimmer clothes, then you build a training program around elevating your heart rate. You're going to do more cardio and more cardiovascular style workouts than opposed to just lifting weights and using resistance. You're going to prioritize getting your heart rate up. So it's on where your starting point is and where you want to go, and then build your training program around that. Okay, now something you may have heard me speak on other podcasts, anyone that's been following the podcast for a while, and over-reliance on supplements. This is another one find it very easy to spot on people, because I was this guy. I was the person that literally bought, with any spare money I had, I bought the newest fat burner, or I bought the newest mass gainer, or I bought the newest supplement that was shown to be 3,000 times results on your body's ability to burn fat, because I didn't realize that the people that were on the magazines, and now it's social media in 2017, it's the social media equivalent, but for me in 2007, 2008, 2009, it was magazines, that the models that I wanted to look like on the magazines weren't necessarily using the supplements that were there. They were either using other things as well. Maybe some performance enhancers may have been in there, but they were definitely training their ass off. They were eating well, and they were using other supplements that were supporting the recovery, and that's why they looked that way. Not because they used Mass Gainer 10,000 or Fat Burner 6 million, because those supplements and the ads are built around selling product. And I didn't understand that. And when I would even follow some of these fitness models, I didn't realize that the bread you eat, the song you sing, that if you're sponsored by a supplement company, that athlete, guy or girl, is going to tell you that those supplements are the best ones on the planet. That's what they get paid for. Some are on massive contracts, and I had a supplement sponsor, and I was very fortunate that my sponsor gave me a lot of free reign, and I talked about the supplements I used, and I told them I would be honest on the ones I didn't or the ones I didn't like. So I had an arrangement with them. I was in a very fortunate position, but a lot of companies don't have that with their athletes. So you're going to hear them saying that, well, this is the best supplement and everyone should use it, and it's not necessarily true. So that's one thing. On top of that, then using too many supplements as opposed to fixing your nutrition. Supplements supplement what you're missing in your nutrition. So the reason that they work so well is because if you have any stop gaps in your nutrition, you can fill them with a supplement. For example, if you don't eat a lot of red meat and you eat mostly chicken, fish, or turkey, you can supplement back in creatine that you would naturally get from red meat, and now you have that supplemented back into your body, so you're able to pull more water underneath the cell, which could potentially lead to more muscle growth in certain people. And the same with somebody that has a omega-3 deficiency. If you don't eat a lot of oily fish, or you don't eat a lot of hemp seeds or flax seeds, you may supplement back in an omega-3 supplement so that you're filling that gap. When you're getting all of your needs from a supplement, that's when the downside comes in. The key is always your nutrition. Get that fixed first and then supplement back in whatever you're missing. There are certain supplements that will work tremendously well for most people. In my book, I spoke about the muscle building ones, branched chain amino acids, creatine, whey protein, the fat burning supplements, green tea extract, L-carnitine tartrate, caffeine, the ones that work for the 99% of people. But these are there to supplement what you're trying to achieve. You have to get your nutrition right, number one, and then add in the supplements that are going to benefit you and that are in alignment with your specific goals, and don't get sucked into the marketing bravado just because your favorite athlete is sponsored by a certain company, as I did, because it's something that I got caught with personally. Okay, and then the last thing is copying the person on social media because you want to look like them. Again, this is very much a mirror. This entire episode is a mirror back on me. I would regularly have fitness magazines and I would buy the one with my favorite athletes. Anthony Presciano used to be a BSN athlete, was my favorite athlete. I loved Julian Gray, he was another BSN athlete. These were guys that I followed, and I literally followed their training programs to the letter because I wanted to look like them. Now, having been in the fitness industry and having competed, having traveled the world as a fitness model, and I did that whole scene, I realized that those workouts aren't necessarily anything to do with the people, that they're just there to fill a spot in a magazine. And very, very similar on social media. Some people will have workouts on social media and a glute builder workout or an ab builder workout or a bicep building workout that they might not necessarily be doing, or if they are, they're very, very genetically gifted in those areas, or they've been trained in those areas for years, and that's why their body part looks like that. It may not be optimal for you. And I've spoken with this before, like people that follow my Snapchat or my Instagram, I put all my workouts up there. I do a lot of GA conditioning workouts. I do some hypertrophy workout to build muscle. I'll also do some fat loss workouts in there as well. And I do put up native content for other people that I'm like, okay, try this home workout if you can't get to the gym. That's for me to try and serve more people and help more people. I put up my workouts on Snapchat, but if your goals aren't the exact same as mine, following that workout may not help you specifically. So it's a case of know what your end goal is. If you're a GA athlete and you're trying to build more muscle and lose body fat and look better and improve your performance, then 75% of my Snapchat and Instagram story workouts are probably going to work great for you, or tailoring them and tweaking them. The reason that people come through my GA lean body program is because you find a version of the program that works best for you, and then you can progressively overload it as you need to. But in the case of Instagram workouts and Facebook workouts, it may not be the best program for you. Just because the girl has amazing glutes and you want your glutes to look just like her, that may not be the optimal way to do it. You know, just because it works for her, it may not necessarily work for you. Now, by all means, try it out and see how you find the movement. Do you connect with it? Is it one you like doing? But just because your favorite athlete on social media does it, doesn't necessarily mean that it's the best exercise for you. And again, the only reason I share this one is because it's one that comes back on me, because I literally followed Anthony Presciano's workouts for, I'd say, 6 whole months, and every single one that he ever put out in a magazine. And I'm like, I don't look anything like this guy. But it comes down to all the other factors that come into it that I mentioned earlier: training, nutrition, the fact they may not be following that program. So that may not be necessarily true. So the end goal and the end advice I'll offer is, whatever your specific goal is, make sure your training program, your nutritional plan, and your supplement guide and everything you're doing is working towards that end goal. You can have whatever it is you want in terms of body composition. You can lose body fat, you can build muscle, you can improve your sporting performance, you can do all three, but you need to make sure that everything is in alignment with that. You can't hit a target you can't see. So the one thing I'd advise at the end of this episode is just have a think. What is your end goal? What is your body composition that you want it to look like? And then make sure that everything is factored towards that. If you're trying to prioritize your glutes and build a bigger bum and bring down the size in your legs, then you do a training program that focuses on more glutes and maybe higher volume in your legs. If you're also trying to make your waist smaller, you want to make sure you're balancing your blood sugars, you're spacing your meals, you're keeping digestion good so your stomach feels flat. If you're a guy that's trying to bring up his chest and his shoulders and his arms so he looks better in a club at the weekend, you want to make sure that you're prioritizing those movements and those body parts in your workouts. So make sure that whatever it is that you want to achieve, that everything is moving towards that. Your training program, your nutrition, and your supplement guide. Okay, so hopefully you guys got loads of value from this episode. A lot of this was a mirror on me. These are all basically mistakes that I've seen that I fell for that were on me. And again, these episodes are kind of more press play and just start talking in the hopes that it kind of lands and resonates with some people. And some of them may have hit, some of them may not, some of them may not even apply to you. But hopefully learning from my mistakes, it may shorten your learning curve. And basically, like, I love the Brandon Mull quote that the smart people learn from their mistakes, the really sharp ones learn from the mistakes of others. So I'm hoping this episode will work a lot towards that for each person that listened. Okay, for more information on me, head over to my website, www.briankeanefitness.com. My Snapchat, BrianK019. I'm still really active on Snapchat. Snapchat and Instagram are kind of my main two platforms I'm using at the minute. So definitely check out my Snapchat, BrianK019. My Instagram, Brian Keane Fitness. My Facebook and YouTube is also Brian Keane Fitness. Massive thank you to Colm over at Voxonic who put together all my episodes. Thanks everyone for listening and downloading. Catch you all soon.